Snow days. And the reason you're getting this instead of coming to join me live in service is because, well, we're snowed in and I think it's minus 215 degrees, give or take. It's cold. And we wanted to make sure that we kept everyone safe, so we had canceled a little earlier in the week. What I find ironic is that if we hadn't canceled, it wouldn't have mattered because none of us could get to the building anyway. Snow days do not work well if you have a personality like mine. I have difficulty sitting still. My family usually makes note of even when I am sitting still, my foot's tapping or my leg is jumping up and down, something like that. So sitting still is not really my thing. Being stuck in one place for very long is not my thing. And yet here we are in this snow day where I am put in a position, just like you, that is not my favorite to be in. I was looking into this and thinking about what I could share with you is going to bring some encouragement and some meaning to your life, especially if you're wired to not sit still for too long. And I was reading through the book of Romans just on my own, and I remembered Romans chapter 15. There's a line in there in verse 13 that is perfect for snow days. You could call it the snow day Bible verse. To be clear, Paul was not talking about snow days. He was talking about some challenges that they were having in the Roman church. But what he gives them as advice is also perfect advice if we're trapped in the snow day. Here's what it said. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Now, if there were ever a snow day verse in the Bible, I think this would be at least a top contender for that position. Snow days change everything. They change our schedules, they cancel church services, they empty roads, they put all of our plans on pause. They just sort of make life that was moving along at whatever pace it was moving along come to a complete and total standstill. But you know what often feels like an interruption can actually be an invitation. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do, is to look at this interruption. I know some of you don't see it as an interruption. You see it as a godsend. And all I can say is blessing upon blessing for your personality type. I wish I had some. But for the rest of us, what seems like an interruption in our life is actually an invitation by God. Oh, excuse me, let me show you my cat here. Hello, cat. She keeps jumping on top of me. An invitation by God to find out some things that are going to help benefit you in the long run. So what are the value of these snow days? Well, snow days remind us that we're not in control. And that's actually good news. Notice the line, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace. We are not in charge of being filled with joy and peace. We don't develop it. We can't manufacture it. No amount of activities, no amount of scheduling, no amount of running from one spot to another can fill us with joy and peace. But when we find ourselves in a position where we can't do what we're used to doing, we find ourselves in a position where God reminds us that even when you're not doing what you want, God says, I am able to fill you with joy and peace. He's the God of hope. Our hope doesn't come from tomorrow. Our hope doesn't come from what we own. Our hope doesn't come from what may or may not happen. Our hope comes from God. And it reminds us at times like this, we're not in charge. I can't even get out on the street, so I am not in charge. But I can still look up to God and say, Father, remind me again that you're my hope. I need you to fill me again with joy and peace because you are the only source of those things. So it reminds us that we're not in charge. But snow days also become a tool where God slows us down, refocuses our attention, and begins to lead us into deeper and more meaningful relationships with Him and more meaningful uses of our times going forward. I found over the years that it's during the snow days, whether it's actual snow or a sickness or something like that, when I'm not able to go about my business and do all the things that I do, it's at those times when God begins to speak to me about a new direction or focusing on a particular area instead of another, it's an invitation for me to look up to God and to say, Father, could you lead me in the path that you've created for me, instead of me just running like a mouse on this wheel around and around and around, spending energy but not really getting much done. Notice the line that Paul writes, as you trust in him. God slows us down so that we can focus on him and put our trust back in him, his plans, his ability to do things in our lives and for our lives that we can't do ourselves. You know, we often miss a great opportunity because we complain so much about the snow day, we don't spend any time talking to the God who's in control of the snow day. We don't actually spend time trusting in him for the future. We spend time worrying about what we're missing, what isn't getting done, or, depending on your relationship, who you're trapped in a house with. But if we're able to look to the God of hope, who can fill us with joy and peace, and begin to trust in him and say, Lord, would you just speak to my mind? Is there something I need to change? Let me use this downtime as an opportunity for you to begin to refocus and reshape some of the areas of my life that might be getting a little bit off track. Not only that, but what often feels like a delay during a snow day is actually often God's design. God designs snow days. I wish he didn't, but he does. God is in control of everything. And so when God, in his divine power, decides that it's time to blanket our area with 9 million feet of snow and drop the temperature down to negative 2,000 degrees, there's not a thing in the world we can do about it. But sometimes we miss the divine design because we're so focused on the snow. What I'm encouraging you to do is to remember this last line from Romans 15:13, so that you might overflow with hope. Wouldn't you like that, to overflow with hope? And here's how: by the power of the Holy Spirit. When we take time to meet with God in these divine invitations, where we are literally forced to either meet with God or sit in our self-pity, when we decide to do that, God overflows hope in our life by the power of the Holy Spirit. Often we get so busy just doing the stuff we're supposed to do for God that we don't spend as much time interacting with God as we should. But during these down times where there's not much else to do, we have an opportunity to take some time and say, Father, thank you for what you've done in my life. Thank you for being my hope, my joy, and my peace. Lord, use this time to help redirect some of the areas of my life that need to change as I trust in you. And Father, I'm focusing on you because my relationship with you is what's going to produce overflowing hope by the person of the Holy Spirit. Let me leave you with this. When you can't move forward, this is my advice, God might be inviting you to look upward. So here's my advice. Look upward. I know you've got television, you got the books in the house and all the stuff that needs to be done. Enjoy all that. But take some time to look upward. Take some time to say, Father, would you speak to me personally and clearly? And let me know the areas that you're proud of. And let me know the areas we need to work on. Because I need to overflow with hope for the rest of my life. And so here's what I'm asking you to ask God. What are you saying to me in this stillness? Lord, what are you saying? If you'll ask God that, God will answer it. And this snow day will actually turn out to be something that benefits you rather than something that just impeded your lifestyle. Whatever you're doing today, I'm going to ask you to remember this. Because of Jesus, life is good today.